Everyone, it's Susie, Crypto Granny here. The date is the 20th of July, 2025, and the time in Europe is 16:40 p.m. My God, what an exciting market this crypto market is. I got to tell you that. There is so much information out there. Read this market at the moment. It's mind-blowing. But I think the most important things that I will mention to you straight up is the president of the US, Mr. Trump, is there is a rumor out there, and it may be true or it may not be, but if it is true, it's going to be so bullish for crypto. It is not funny. The rumor is that he may open up the 401k funds, which are superannuation funds for employees and big industry funds that are only allowed at the moment to buy bonds and equities. But if he opens that up for cryptocurrency, allegedly, he can basically put this into law where 401k funds can buy, 3% or 1% of their holdings in crypto. Now, the 401k funds off last count around about $43 trillion, right? And if he opens that up for the super funds in America, it's going to be something like 9 trillion that could potentially go to crypto, okay? And the crypto market got to 4 trillion the other day. But, all this money coming to this market's going to go one way, and that is up. I'm calling for a mega bull run here. The risk is you sell too early. It's as simple as that, right? Plus, coupled with that, there's rumors out there that Jeremy Powell, the head of the FOMC, the chairman of the Federal Open Market Committee, Mr. Trump doesn't think he's done a great job at all. And there's some rumor that he may resign and Mr. Trump might put his own person in. So we're going to have cuts potentially in interest rates, the Fed funds rate, which is, still too high at 4.25% to 4.5%. And if that happens, if this market is going to go through the roof, it still makes me, I'm just still in disbelief, to be honest with you, why people are selling Bitcoin. Apparently, open interest at the moment for Bitcoin, 54% are short Bitcoin in terms of futures and derivatives. You've got to be crazy. I mean, Michael Saylor is out there buying as much Bitcoin as he can. So is every corporate treasury out there buying Bitcoin. Even governments are buying Bitcoin. Why would you want to short an asset where there's one asset in the world and 8 million potentially, or trillions of people wanting to invest in Bitcoin? Plus, we know that BlackRock are buying Bitcoin every day because of their ETFs, which has been the most successful ETF they've ever had, over and above the Standard & Poor's 500. So why do you want to sell an asset where there's one asset? It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Now, coupled with that, we've got other corporate treasuries opening up their treasuries to basically buy into Dodge. We've seen it with Dodge. We've seen it with Litecoin. We're seeing it with other crypto like Ethereum, XRP, Dodge. We're seeing it even with Crow, and we're seeing breakouts on all these coins that have been dramatically oversold. Like, Crow, was up quite a bit overnight. Algo was up a bit overnight. Conflux was up 44% overnight. Tezos was up 44% overnight. Litecoin was up 16%. Charlie Lee from Litecoin has joined MEI Pharmaceuticals, now sitting on their board, but they're buying crypto. Another house is buying 500 million in terms of Dodge. This market, people, is going to go one way up. And the risk, I keep saying, is the risk that you're not in it, or the risk is you are in it and you sell too early. It's as simple as that. Now, with Bitcoin dominance currently at 61.1922, I should say, that's going to go down as the alts start performing. And we've seen a massive underperformance of a lot of alts. So my technicals that I'm going to look at today, I'm going to focus on some of the alts that we've held in the past and some of the alts that we still hold, which are all breaking out. And as I said, what's breaking out at the moment clearly is Bitcoin Cash, Algorand, Conflict CFX, which is still extremely cheap. It's one of the only crypto networks, crypto technologies that China actually allows, right? So the Chinese government is behind Conflicts and can still pick it up at 12 cents. It's an amazing story. Crow, again, Mr. Trump is looking at opening up ETF funds, and Crow could be on that list. VeChain, again, is starting to murmur. It's well oversold. If you look at the client list of VeChain, it's insane. It's still at 2.5 cents. Hedera is breaking out. Litecoin, has broken out with Charlie Lee, getting on the board of MEI Pharmaceuticals. Link, has just completed an installation with Westpac in Australia, one of the largest banks in Australia, a major bank in Australia. Everyone has to use Link. There's 35 million crypto coins and currencies. Everyone needs to use Link within cryptocurrency market, but also the financial markets, because they're a pricing oracle with incredible security, right? It's a gimme at these prices. Under $20, it is cheap, cheap, cheap. In the last rally, Link got to $55 or more. But now it's so much more profitable, and it puts on 2 to 3 clients a day. It's insane to sell this market when alts are so cheap. I'm calling for huge breakouts here. We are going to see the mega of a bull run like you've never seen before. And if that executive order by the President of the United States to allow 401k money to invest in crypto, you don't want to be short this market. This market is cheap, people. The market cap got to 4 trillion. It's now currently, according to Live Coin Watch, at 3.855 trillion. Volume is huge. It doesn't surprise me, because now all the corporates are starting to buy, and everyone else, all the governments out there from South America right through, we're seeing more and more corporate treasuries buying Bitcoin. Mr. Saylor started the run from MicroStrategy. He's become a Bitcoin fund, basically, and he wants to buy more Bitcoin, even at this level. I do believe the thesis that Bitcoin could get to $1 million per unit within 10 years, okay? Many people laughed at it when it was at 1 cent, and now we're looking at 118,606, okay? Look, there's no apples in the world, right? They're going to have to tokenize Bitcoin because it will be too expensive. And with tokenization, it's like having a house that you sell and they build 6 units on the house block, right? And then your house that you sold for $1 million with the 6 units is now worth $6 million. It's the same story as tokenization. If you look at the staking rates are so much higher than any other financial market out there. You can buy Bitcoin, or you can buy Ethereum or XRP, and the staking rates, and even other alts, the staking rates are ranging from 6 to 20%, right? Even if you buy crypto, you can get passive income at that level. It's insane, where you can actually borrow less and stake at higher rates, right? It's a gimme. There are so many reasons why I'm bullish this market. I can't even tell you, right? Every corporate treasury out there is starting to buy Bitcoin, and they're starting to do it in a big way by issuing debt into the market. That gives them a funding tool. They sell debt to the bondholders. They get money from that, and then they buy Bitcoin. It's exactly what Michael Saylor is doing and MicroStrategy. It's a simple thesis, right? Ethereum's up at 5.63%, 3745. We've got whales in every one of these coins at the moment, right? And they're scaling in at big, right? But it makes me laugh why people would be short Bitcoin in the derivatives and the futures. You got to be crazy. This is going to go so much higher, people, and it's going to go much higher. This is only consolidating at the moment to take a breather, but the next step is up and away, okay? XRP at 353. Whales have accumulated 41 billion of XRP in the last couple of days. There is one concern about XRP, even though it's putting on new clients every day, and that's great. The SEC still hasn't, stopped the case, and I don't know why that is, right? There seems to be some, bargaining going on or whatever. But, some people are saying, there's a story out there, some people are saying they're not close to a settlement yet. I think that's probably what's keeping the price down of XRP at this stage. Mind you, you've had a mega rally in XRP in the last year at 496%. Binance is a meganaut, right? Binance is creating a technology that's going to be faster than anything we've ever seen, that's going to match the NASDAQ technology. Binance at 746 is a gift. Binance should be where Ethereum is. It's as simple as that. It is a gift. And they only have about 130 million of crypto on issue, and they want to take it to 100 mil. Plus, there's a corporate treasury that wants to buy 500 million of Binance. Why would you be short Binance? It's nuts, right? Solano, same story. All the whales are getting into Solano. Dodge, same story. Another corporate treasury bought a slab of Dodge last night. All these cryptos are breaking out. I can show you technically. It's quite amazing, right? Tron, a mega story. They took over a company called SRM on the NASDAQ, and now they've called it Tron Inc., right? Every time that company goes up, Tron will start to go up. Tron is cheap here. Cheap, cheap, cheap. They are making so much money from the volume on the network. They have over 200 million clients, and they do volume more than XRP, more than Ethereum, more than Bitcoin together. Again, Tron at 31 cents is insane. Should be at $3.50, $3.80, $4, even higher than XRP. I'm sorry to tell you that. I know a lot of my people look at XRP, but look, Tron is cheap, people, cheap. Stellar is too expensive. It's a joke. It put on one client, PayPal, right? It's integrating with PayPal and it's upgraded its network, but it's overbought at these levels because it doesn't have the client base. The Tron does, right? So why is Tron less than Stellar? You got to think about these reasons, right? Link is a gift at 1941. It's not surprising me that it's up 9.6%. Every bank in the world needs to use Link, right? Every bank in the world. And by last count, there's probably, including small banks globally, probably about 50 odd thousand banks in the world. H bar is starting to run. Watch out for H bar. Avalanche is starting to run. BCH is running. We're overweight BCH. Litecoin is running. I mean, Pepe, captures the trader's imagination. This is bull, bull, bull. Crow, looks very good technically as well. VeChain looks great technically. Tezos, again, was up 44% in a night. Conflicts up 44%. It was so oversold, it was a joke. Tezos now is up 50% overnight, man. And you can think about it. You can borrow money at 4% and get a return, which is a daily return of 50%. It's insane. Theatre up 10%. We used to hold that ages ago. KuCoin, we used to hold these all a long time ago, probably 5 years ago. But, the market is going to rally, and it's going to rally big time. This is just the start. This hasn't even started. The bull has not even started yet, and we don't want to be short any of this stuff. Anyway, apart from that, I wanted to say, I hope you're all looking after yourself, looking after your wives, your beautiful husband, beautiful family, beautiful friends, and your children and animals, of course, and the environment, and other people and animals in this world, just to make this world a better place. So grab yourself a cup of coffee. Let's look at the technicals. And then I've got news stories. There's quite a few today because there's a lot of updating, and I won't talk to those. But, the bull is here, and Mr. Trump, the president of America, is going to make the US the crypto country of the world, and he is going to put the taps on for crypto, okay? And why do you want to be short crypto? It's beyond me. Just stay long. Any dip you buy with your ears pinned back. Seriously, the charts are reflecting a huge rally, and 3.853 trillion, 4 trillion is too cheap for this market, right? This market has been consolidating 5 years. 5 years ago it was at 3 trillion. But these cryptos have been around now for a long time. They're all getting older. Most of them have been, Binance is 8 years old, right? Bitcoin is, nearly 17 years old. Ethereum is 10 years old. XRP is 12. They've got clients and they've got the fundamentals to prove their valuations, but their valuations are too cheap when we compare it to the equity market. And it doesn't surprise me because the equity market looks at forward earnings where crypto markets are not doing that. So bull, mega. I am mega bullish, people. And look at the volume. The volume is huge, right? And it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Anyway, grab yourself a cup of coffee wherever you are in the world, and we'll look at some technicals. I will be looking at the breakout coins that I spoke about today. Algo, Conflicts, CFX, Crow, VeChain, Hedera, Litecoin, Link, Tezos, Avalanche. There's a lot of breakout coins today, and they're all breaking out in different portfolios. This is a very, very exciting market. And we've got Algo here, and Algo broke out, very clearly. It broke out like a couple of days ago. And, this thing could go a lot higher. This looks very good on the 4 hours to me. Very, very good. I mean, next resistance on this thing is 34 cents. It's currently at 30 at the moment. We go to the daily, let's take it out. Let's go to the monthly so that we can see this properly. Let's go to a 6 month. This thing's broken out, right? A long consolidation period, and boom, straight up. This thing could go anywhere, right? $1.67 in the bigger time scale, right? And that's what I'm seeing on every crypto that's been oversold. Let's go to Conflux and have a look at that, okay? This won't necessarily be in alphabetical order, but, Conflux is broken out, right? It's broken out big time, and it's so oversold. It got to $1.80. And as I said, it's the only Chinese, apart from VeChain, network that's accepted in China, right? Again, Conflicts could easily all of a sudden get to 25, 30 cents before you can say Jack Robinson. And it's still only at 17 cents, but it's a major breakout, right? What else? Look at Tezos. Tezos was up 50% today, and again, major breakout. Got so oversold, it was a joke, right? Like everything. Plus, with Bitcoin having a dominance of 61.3 or something, these coins have to start performing. Again, on the weekly, major breakout, people, major breakout. Tezos could get back to 340. I'm talking 340 when the coin's at $1.17, right? Look at Crow. Again, Crow. There was an SEC case against Crow, and that's gone, right? They got cleared this year, and now Mr. Trump is talking about setting up an ETF for a fund that's going to invest in Crow, right? Now, Crow, on the weekly could easily get back to $23.23. That's an uplift of 50%, right? We take it to the daily. The daily looks so bullish, it's a joke. We take it further out. This is what we've got to look at. This thing could go to bloody $1, right? Every one of these charts I'm looking at looks so bullish, it is a joke. It is an absolute joke. Litecoin has been so oversold. In its heyday, it was over, what, $450, right? But yeah, people are starting to buy Litecoin, right? And look at that. This is on the 6 monthly, total breakout. The highs were at 426 or more, and yet we're still talking about Litecoin being at 118. There's going to be massive amounts of money coming into this market. And these coins that I'm showing you are basically going to perform like you've never seen anything like, right? And they're all, investment coin, right? They're all high grade investments, right? Where they've got the fundamentals to support the price, right? Again, Link, does business everywhere in the world globally, right? And everyone needs to use Link. In the last rally, it was $55. But again, it's over this VWAP now, and if you don't know what VWAP is, please, do a course with me or something. But, it's over this VWAP now. This thing could go easily to $55 within Jack Robinson, okay? Hashadera, again, another one that's breaking out. And we know all these coins because, we've been in these coins for like 5 years or more or longer. But Hashadera, got to, 58 cents. This is major breakout. Every chart looks like this. No matter which chart I show you, we have got full on bull. Don't forget, you've got to look at the longer term charts, right? Because, you don't want to be, cut out of a bullish position looking at short-term charts when the underlying fundamentals are so bullish. It is a joke, right? Every chart I'm looking at and every portfolio I look at, right, is going up, okay? And the alts have to start performing, and they will. Absolutely. If we look at Avalanche, for example, same story, bull, right? Bullish. All these things have to catch up. Ripple XRP at the moment, it's already had its run. That's the risk. It won't run as much as these other ones that I'm showing you because it's already had its run. Every crypto runs at different times, but I'm saying if you're in any of these, stay in them, absolutely, because they're all still so cheap. And why would you sell something so cheap when the flood, of money potentially, and I believe it will happen, is going to come into crypto. You know, the 401ks in America, as I said, can only hold bonds and stocks. And if that floodgate is open for, you know, and I think Mr. Trump will do that because he's certainly, you know, a businessman. And I think he will make America great again. Look, I don't necessarily believe in a lot of his, you know, domestic type policies, but in terms of the economics of the market and crypto, he's going to create the biggest bull run you've ever seen. And you're just fighting against the Fed here, and you're fighting against the president's policies. I mean, if this, you know, 401k money comes in, and I'm sure it will, that's 9 trillion can be added to crypto. That is not a market, babies in the woods, that you short, okay? You don't stand in front of the train. And I can't understand why people are shorting Bitcoin when there are so many governments, like El Salvador is buying more crypto. Venezuela is buying so much more crypto. Everyone is doing it. Corporates are doing it. Everyone's doing it, right? And you just got to be crazy to be short this market. Anyway, you know, that's pretty much me, guys and girls. Hope you will look after yourself. Please look at the news stories, some very important news stories today. You know, I've mentioned a few of them. And, you know, if you like this, please subscribe to me and, you know, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.